For a book, I like to get all of the research done, most of it. I continue to report as we go along because there's always some follow-up, there's always something else to do. I want to have enough so that, quote-unquote, there are no surprises, major changes. But the Mengele book taught me something else early on, and that was that you could, in fact, be very, very late on a major thing. Perfect example. I turned in the draft on that book in February or March of 1985, first draft to the publisher. In May or June of '85, Mengele's bones were found in South America. The man I thought in the last few chapters was still likely alive and living somewhere in Paraguay turned out, through a forensics pathologist, to be dead. I went down to South America. Time magazine and others wrote about the fact that I had the largest private archive of Mengele documents, and all of a sudden in Munich, Mengele's only son, Rolf, goes to a publisher, Bunte, where they have a magazine, sort of like a People magazine or that, and he says, here are my father's diaries and personal letters for all his years on the run. I don't want any money for them. You publish them. Your increased circulation you give to survivor organizations. They were afraid of being burnt by the Hitler diaries. Stern magazine a few years earlier had gotten the so-called Hitler diaries. They turned out to be fakes. They had published them. It was a terrible embarrassment. So Bunte said, oh, we don't want to be burnt. So let's get together a group of handwriting experts, the equivalent of the FBI to test the paper, and we'll bring in some historical fellows. They brought in Norman Stone, the chair of the Third Reich history at Oxford. They brought in Günter Deschner, and they brought in me. I was the only non-professor of the group. We sat in Munich across the table from Rolf Mengele and quizzed him for 3 weeks. When that was all over, I asked him if I could have access to those papers for my book. No charge, no commitment, no understanding about how the book would be written, and he said, well, you've seen them already here, you can. The biggest and most important element of the book became what I got at the very end. I had to do a total rewrite on the manuscript. Now that doesn't happen very often, but it goes to show that what you need to be open to as a journalist or as a nonfiction writer is the possibility that if you're dealing with a story that even you think is, especially if it's current, it could take a turn so dramatic that if you're not ready to sit down and rip up what you have, that's essentially what I had to do, because we had to change the entire process. We now knew precisely what happened, and we were able to put Mengele's voice in it. It made it a great book. If I had published a year earlier, it wouldn't have been.